I never imagined I'd feel so small and exposed in a courtroom, especially with my own brother staring daggers at me, as if he had the right to judge my heart. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and anxiety, every tick of the clock echoing louder than usual. His lawyer, perfectly composed, pointed a finger at me and painted me as a monster, someone who manipulated my grandmother's failing memory for personal gain. Each word felt like a punch to my chest, a public stripping of my loyalty, my care, my love. The shame burned hotter than the anger rising inside me. I kept my hands folded, forcing myself to breathe, but my stomach churned with disbelief. This was Silas, my brother, the one I grew up sharing secrets with, accusing me of betrayal. Beside me, my 11-year-old son Leo sat quietly. He had always been wise beyond his years, especially with Grandma Nell. He understood her in ways even I sometimes couldn't, and I trusted him more than anyone in that room. As the lawyer's voice droned on, Leo quietly stood, catching everyone off guard. He walked to the clerk's table, small but determined, and placed a red flash drive down. His voice rang out with clarity and courage. My great-grandma Nell told me to give this to the judge if anyone lied about my mom. The entire room went silent. Even Silas's lawyer froze, his smug confidence faltering. All eyes turned to the little boy holding the weight of a woman's last wishes. I could feel my heart pounding as the judge picked up the drive, curiosity and caution etched on his face. My son had just taken control of the narrative in a way no one expected. He had been my grandmother's secret keeper, practicing what to do in case Silas tried to turn her love into evidence against me. She had trusted him, and through him, her voice reached beyond the grave. I glanced at Leo, seeing pride and determination, realizing that my grandmother's foresight and my son's courage had formed a shield around me. The room seemed to hold its breath as the clerk prepared the drive for review. I felt tears sting my eyes, but not from fear or shame. This was relief, vindication. The silence in the courtroom was heavy with anticipation, the kind that precedes the unveiling of truth. All the hatred, all the lies my brother had spun, were about to meet the evidence he could never counter. In that moment, I realized that love and loyalty, even across generations, could conquer deceit. My grandmother's wisdom, preserved in files on that small red flash drive, and my son's bravery had saved me from my own family's betrayal. I could finally sit back, breathe, and let the truth speak for itself. I'm Alara Dawson, and my grandmother Nell was the heart of our family and my closest friend. After my parents passed, Silas changed. The warmth he once had was replaced by ambition and impatience. When Grandma suffered a stroke, I moved in to care for her, handling everything from meals to doctor's appointments. Silas visited only a couple of times, each time carrying papers about selling her house, acting more like a businessman than a grandson. He began spreading the story that I was keeping Grandma to myself, that I was trying to control her for my own benefit. The estate itself was never complicated. Grandma's home and belongings were modest, and she intended them to be shared fairly. Yet over time, Silas twisted every decision I made into evidence of greed. He refused to see the long nights I spent by her side, the care I offered when he didn't even stay for more than an hour. When the will was finally updated, it reflected Grandma's true wishes. Most of the house and assets were entrusted to me, while Silas received a smaller trust. His reaction was pure anger, a mix of entitlement and disappointment. What hurt the most wasn't just the money. It was the accusation of manipulation. Silas tried to convince others that I had isolated Grandma, that my care was self-serving. Every conversation he had with friends or distant relatives painted me as the villain. It was exhausting to defend myself emotionally, and even the memory of it still makes my stomach turn. Despite the tension, I knew I had acted with love and responsibility. I had never wanted to keep anyone from Grandma. I only wanted to protect her and honor her wishes. Through all of this, I realized that the foundation of this betrayal wasn't the will itself, but Silas's perception of me. His bitterness and impatience had turned him against his own family, While I cared for Grandma day and night, he allowed greed and pride to cloud his judgment, and that became the root of the conflict that would eventually bring us to a courtroom. It was a painful reminder that family bonds can be fragile, and that love isn't always recognized until it's tested by betrayal. After Grandma Nell passed away, the house felt emptier than ever, and grief hung over me like a weight I couldn't shake. I expected Silas to at least check in, to offer a word of comfort, but instead he went straight to his lawyer, Mr. Thorne, turning our family loss into a battlefield. What was meant to be a simple probate hearing became a storm of accusations. Thorne filed a motion claiming I had unduly influenced Grandma, suggesting that I had twisted her decisions for my own gain. He brought in witnesses who had little connection to our real lives. One was a caregiver Silas had hired for just a short period, claiming she overheard me giving Grandma advice that sounded suspicious. Another was a neighbor who rarely spoke with either of us but echoed Silas's version of events. Their stories were woven into a narrative designed to make me seem controlling and deceitful, a daughter taking advantage of her elderly grandmother. Reading the legal documents was like a punch to the chest. Each line tried to strip away years of devotion, reducing my love and care to manipulation. What hurt more than the words themselves was seeing Silas's name attached to them. It wasn't just legal strategy, it was personal betrayal. The brother I had grown up trusting, the one I thought shared my memories and laughter, had decided to frame me as a villain in front of everyone. It left me questioning how well I really knew him and why family could turn against you so completely. I spent hours rereading the claims, trying to find any mistake, any loophole that could protect my reputation. I knew I had done nothing wrong, yet the weight of their false stories felt heavy in the air, threatening to overshadow everything Grandma had taught me about honesty and love. It became clear that this was no longer about property or money. It was about character, about control, and about Silas trying to rewrite the story of our family in his favor. I realized I had to be ready to defend not just my inheritance, but the truth of my life with Grandma. And I had to find a way to show that what Silas called manipulation was really care, respect, and love. The night before the hearing, the house felt heavy with tension. I sat with Maria, my lawyer, going over every detail, trying to prepare for the questions and accusations that awaited me. My hands shook more than I expected, and my voice wavered as I practiced explaining my relationship with Grandma and the care I had given her. Outside the papers and legal jargon, the thought of facing Silas in court made my stomach knot. Leo, my 11-year-old, was unusually quiet that evening. Normally he would fidget or ask a million questions, but now he sat close to me on the couch, staring at the floor, lost in thought. I assumed he was nervous about the courtroom, about hearing people say things that weren't true about me. I pulled him into a hug, whispering that no matter what happened tomorrow, he knew the truth about me and Grandma. He nodded, holding on tight, but there was something in his eyes, a determination I hadn't seen before. As I watched him, I realized how much he understood. Leo had spent so much time with Grandma that he had witnessed moments Silas never did. He had seen the laughter, the care, and the small rituals we shared, and somehow, he had taken them to heart. I felt a flicker of reassurance knowing he remembered those things and believed in me. Yet I didn't suspect the full depth of what he was carrying. He wasn't just observing, he was protecting. That night, after dinner, we stayed up a little longer than usual. I read him a story, and he asked quiet questions about Grandma, about why some people lie, and about what courage really meant. I tried to answer without overwhelming him, but inside I marveled at his strength. He seemed to understand that tomorrow would be more than just a legal battle. It would be a moment where truth had to be defended. As I tucked him into bed, I kissed his forehead and whispered that he was brave. He smiled faintly, clutching my hand for a moment before letting go. I went to my room, exhausted and anxious, unaware that he was guarding a plan, a secret that Grandma had entrusted to him, something that could change everything in the courtroom the next day. The quiet determination in his eyes told me he was ready for what was coming, even if I wasn't fully prepared myself. The courtroom was tense, every seat filled with quiet anticipation. Silas didn't even glance at me. his focus fixed on his lawyer as if he were detached from the room entirely. Mr. Thorne took the floor with a confident, almost rehearsed air, laying out accusations with precision. He claimed I had manipulated Grandma, presenting it as a deliberate, calculated effort to take control of her decisions. He framed my care as self-interest, twisting ordinary acts of love into evidence of greed. His words were sharp, designed to make the judge see me as someone untrustworthy, someone who had taken advantage of a vulnerable elder. He painted a story of resentment, suggesting that any affection I had shown was actually a scheme to exclude Silas from his rightful inheritance. Each statement felt like a cold knife against my chest, stripping away years of dedication and loyalty in front of strangers. I could see the subtle smirks from some in the audience, the way they hesitated between sympathy and disbelief. When it was my lawyer Maria's turn, I tried to steady my voice, to explain the truth of my relationship with Grandma. I spoke about the long hours, the daily routines, the laughter and small joys we shared. I told the court how I had always acted out of love, never profit. But even as I spoke, I felt the words slide past the icy narrative Mr. Thorne had built. It was frustrating and exhausting to counter every point, knowing that in the eyes of the court, his polished accusations carried weight. The pressure in the room was overwhelming, my hands trembling as I clutched my notes. Every question felt like a test of my honesty, and every answer seemed fragile against the theatrical accusations. Silas remained silent, watching, waiting, as if he expected me to falter completely. I focused on Leo, sitting quietly beside me, his small hand brushing mine occasionally. His presence was grounding, a reminder that the truth wasn't just in my words. It was in the evidence, in the memories, and in the love I had shown Grandma. For the first time, I realized that this wasn't just a legal battle. It was a test of character, of courage, and of endurance. And I knew that soon, the truth that Silas tried to bury would have its moment to shine. Just as Mr. Thorne started his closing statements, emphasizing his claims about manipulation and control. Leo quietly tugged on my sleeve. Before I could react, he stood up, his small frame straight and determined, and walked toward the front of the courtroom. The judge frowned, clearly irritated by the interruption. "Young man, this is not," he began, but Leo spoke over him, his voice steady and clear, carrying a weight far beyond his age. "My great-grandma Nell told me to give this to the judge if anyone lied about my mom," he said, placing a small red flash drive on the table. He looked directly at the judge, his eyes full of seriousness, and added, "She said the password is my birthday and hers backwards." There was a pause that felt like the room had stopped breathing. Every eye turned toward him, and even Silas's confident expression faltered. His lawyer froze, realizing that whatever was on that drive could change everything. I felt a surge of awe and relief. Leo had been silent all morning, observing, holding back, and now he was taking action. It was as if he had been waiting for the exact right moment, understanding something that even I hadn't fully grasped until now. His courage cut through the tension, a small but undeniable force that demanded attention. The courtroom, usually a place of cold procedure, felt suddenly alive with possibility. I could see the judge leaning forward, curiosity and caution mixing in his expression. The seriousness in Leo's tone left no room for doubt. He wasn't acting on whimsy or childish instinct. He was delivering a message, a final piece of truth that had been entrusted to him. The flash drive, small and unassuming, now held the power to expose lies and reveal the reality of my relationship with Grandma. In that moment, I realized how much my grandmother had trusted Leo, teaching him the importance of timing and discretion. She had known her words and actions might be questioned, so she prepared him, knowing he would understand when the moment came. Watching him stand there, fearless, I felt a deep swell of gratitude. This was more than a child helping his mother. This was the final link between Grandma's wisdom and the justice she intended, delivered by the bravest person I knew. A recess was called, and everyone in the courtroom gathered around as the judge, both lawyers, and a tech expert examined the flash drive. The files on it immediately made it clear why Leo had brought it forward. The first set contained videos of Grandma Nell speaking directly to the camera. Even after her stroke, she was sharp, her voice steady and full of clarity. She introduced herself, explaining that if anyone was watching, it was probably because Silas had contested her will. She spoke of me with warmth and certainty, saying I was not manipulating her, and that she had chosen to reward my love and care while acknowledging Silas's distance and absence. The impact of seeing her on screen, hearing her words as if she were sitting in the courtroom, was overwhelming. The videos captured moments of her true intentions, a clear and unbroken testament to her mind and heart. It was impossible to ignore her presence and the honesty in her expressions. Each word she spoke dismantled the accusations that had been thrown at me, piece by piece, replacing doubt with undeniable truth. The second set of files contained audio recordings, captured secretly during Silas's visits. In them, his voice could be heard pressuring Grandma to sell the house, suggesting that I was only interested in her money, and trying to coax statements he could use to support his claims. Hearing him twist his words and manipulate situations made the courtroom fall silent. It was clear that he had tried to manufacture evidence against me, but the recordings revealed his true intentions. The contrast between Silas's coercion and Grandma's clarity was striking. As the judge listened and the tech expert verified the files, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted completely. The weight of the fabricated accusations began to crumble under the undeniable proof of truth. My heart raced, but I felt a calm confidence too, knowing that Grandma's foresight had prepared for this moment. Through the videos and recordings, her voice and wisdom reached beyond her passing, protecting me and exposing Silas's deceit. It was a turning point, the evidence that finally allowed the truth to stand unchallenged, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of relief that justice would prevail. The courtroom felt completely different when everyone returned from the recess. The tension that had hung in the air was replaced by a heavy stillness. The judge's expression was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the evidence in front of him. Mr. Thorne looked drained, his usual confidence gone, as if the truth had stripped all performance from him. Silas finally met my eyes, and I could see a flicker of something I had never seen before: panic. The anger he had worn like armor was gone, replaced by the realization that his plans had failed completely. The judge ruled swiftly, dismissing Silas's challenge to the will with prejudice. The words rang through the courtroom, leaving no room for appeal, no way for Silas to twist the outcome. The weight of the moment sank in as I allowed myself a quiet breath, relief mingling with a lingering adrenaline from the confrontation. All the accusations, the manipulation claims, the rehearsed lies, it was over. The truth had stood, undeniable and clear, and it had dismantled the false narrative Silas had spent months building. After the hearing, in the hallway just outside the courtroom, Silas tried to form words, to excuse himself or deflect blame, but I didn't let him. I looked at him calmly, letting the silence hang for a moment before speaking. Grandma knew you, Silas. She loved you anyway, but she knew. My words were quiet, but they carried everything that needed to be said. There was no room for argument, no way for him to defend himself against what Grandma had already revealed. He could only stand there, face pale, realizing that every attempt he had made to twist reality had failed. The sense of control he had tried to wield against me dissolved in an instant, replaced by the awareness that he had underestimated both my relationship with Grandma and the wisdom she had left behind. In that moment, I felt a mixture of vindication and peace. The confrontation was not about revenge, it was about truth, and the truth had surfaced stronger than any lie or scheme. Silas had faced the consequences of his choices, and the reality of his actions had been exposed to everyone who mattered. The weight of betrayal had finally been lifted, leaving space for clarity, for justice, and for the quiet satisfaction of knowing that what was right had been fully acknowledged. The real impact didn't come from the estate itself. It came from watching Silas confronted with the failure of his own schemes, a plan he had carefully built now crumbling in front of everyone. The humiliation was quiet but absolute, a stark contrast to the arrogance he had carried into the courtroom. It wasn't about money or possessions. It was about seeing the truth of his intentions revealed and recognized by everyone present. What mattered most was the way my character had been defended, not by words alone, but by actions and foresight. Leo's courage shone in that moment, and I realized how much thought Grandma had put into preparing him. For the past year, she had quietly guided him, teaching him patience, discretion, and when to step forward. He had been practicing without complaint, waiting for the moment when he could protect what mattered most to her and to me. As I watched him, it became clear that this had been a carefully orchestrated safeguard, a bridge between Grandma's wisdom and the present. She had chosen her most innocent ally, trusting that he would understand the stakes and act with precision. The idea that a child could hold such responsibility was remarkable, yet he carried it with confidence and calm, proving how deeply she had prepared him for this day. The courtroom had witnessed a shift that went far beyond legal victory. It was a quiet reckoning of honesty against manipulation, loyalty against betrayal. The validation of my care and integrity was more powerful than any formal judgment. It reassured me that love, thoughtfulness, and preparation could overcome deception. In that moment, I felt a wave of emotion, pride in Leo, gratitude for Grandma, and a profound sense of justice that wasn't flashy or vengeful, but deeply satisfying. The years of care, the patience with Silas's attempts to twist reality, and the quiet endurance had all been worth it. I realized that the true power of this moment lay in the alignment of generations, in the way Grandma's guidance, combined with Leo's courage, had created a clear and undeniable truth. This was the culmination of trust, preparation, and love, and it left Silas exposed, while affirming everything Grandma had believed about me and the bond I shared with her and with Leo. The house is quiet now, filled with the echoes of memories rather than tension. Silas received his small trust, but our lives no longer intersect. We don't speak, and I've learned to let that be. In the mornings, Leo and I sit in Grandma's garden, watching sunlight filter through the trees, feeling a calm that had been absent for so long. It's here, among the flowers and familiar paths, that I sense her presence and the careful way she planned for this moment. Grandma didn't just leave me a home or money. She left me protection, a way to defend myself without anger or conflict. Her foresight reached across generations, and through Leo, her trust was honored. The boy who had been small and quiet for so long became the instrument of her wisdom, carrying her voice and her instructions when it mattered most. It's a reminder that love and preparation can overcome deceit, and that strength doesn't always come from force or confrontation. It can come from care, guidance, and faith in those who understand the truth. I often think about Silas and the choices he made, the plans he tried to execute, and the moments he underestimated both me and Leo. The manipulation was always his, not mine, and in the end, his attempts to control the story of our family collapsed quietly but completely. The courtroom, the flash drive, and Leo's bravery made it clear that truth, when supported by honesty and vigilance, cannot be silenced or twisted. Living here now, I feel a sense of closure that goes beyond legal matters. It's the knowledge that Grandma's love protected me, that her careful planning kept us safe, and that our bond, hers, mine, and Leo's, was stronger than any lie or scheme. The garden has become our sanctuary, a place to remember her lessons, to cherish her foresight, and to teach Leo the values she held dear. It's a life grounded in peace, resilience, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing the truth is on your side, even when others try to rewrite it.